are all full of authentic points of view. Myself alone have at least 22. They come from the things that we have been through. Those things can either make or break you. Life is full of ups and downs. It's our choice to either smile or frown. Please choose to smile today, because it's one thing that's free to give away. People say that life isn't hard, it's what you make of it, but what if only struggle surrounds you? What can you take from it? Life can be hard and some things aren't fair. Please listen to others just to be aware. All I'm saying, you never know what someone's going through. Just because they look happy doesn't make it true. Hopefully this podcast will help you see you are not alone, you at least got me. We are more alike than you may know, but if we stay quiet, we will never grow. So never give up, because you got this. If you quit, think of all the opportunities that you could miss. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Authentic Points of View. I am your host, Danielle Boer, and I'm so excited to be here. My voice is hoarse, and I'll tell you why. I sound like a teenage puberty kid. It's because I auditioned for the Great American Speak Off yesterday. Was the best time ever. Yeah, I screamed, and I literally am gonna sound so crazy right now, but that's okay. I had the best time ever and met a lot of people, and I'll talk about it another time. But I have an amazing guest. He is so awesome. He's from the future. Woo! The future. I bet you it's gonna be great. I can't wait to see into the future. Okay, so Simon Rinne is a social worker who is an advocate for men's mental health. He's the host of the podcast Mindful Men. Welcome, Simon. Woo! There goes my voice.
Hi, Danielle. How you going?
Yeah.
How you going, Danielle? It's really good to be here.
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. Bear with me. I'm gonna sound like maybe I should be on your podcast, like a man. Like, oh my gosh, it's horrible. Yeah, it sounds like either like Steve Urkel or like something like that, but it's all good. Anyway, so I'm so excited to talk to you. So, bear with me on my voice. But we're just gonna get into it. So, what career did you quit when you started your business?
Yeah, so thanks for having me again, coming on your show. It's really great to talk to you, and I'll try and talk more so you don't have to talk so much.
I always talk so much
though. So I guess the career that I had was like when I came out of high school, and this is like in the late 90s, I kind of ended up in a generalist degree, a Bachelor of Social Science, and then I come at the end of that and didn't really know what a social scientist did back then. And there was no such thing as Google or anything like that. So we had to try and figure out from newspapers like where I can get jobs and things like that. And so I landed in the Australian Public Service. I became a public servant. Worked in a whole bunch of different cool jobs. So I worked in sports anti-doping. I worked in the Australian Border Force. Worked in immigration policy and even the last 4 years in disability. But it never really lit me up. So I was always kind of wondering, is this life? Is there more to life? Should I be doing something different? And about 7 or so years ago, I started getting the itch for something new in my brain, basically. And I wasn't climbing the corporate ladder, and I was sick of work. And so I landed on a Master of Social Work and started that kind of journey. And I got really excited because it enabled me to dive into the mental health space and really get into this field, because I've lived with mental illness since I was 8 years old. So I've lived with obsessive compulsive disorder and bouts of depression, generalized anxiety, and even burnout during the study period that I started with social work. And so to be able to move into that field, I got really excited about it because it was something that I was passionate about. And not only from exploring what was happening with me and learning more about things like OCD, but also to be able to help other guys, particularly, to open up about mental health. Because in my journey, like, I bottled it up for 20 years before I finally went and got help from a doctor and subsequent diagnosis as well. So I knew how hard it was to talk about men's mental health and mental health particularly. But I also knew that recovery is possible because I've been on my own therapy journey over the last 10 years, and I just wanted to kind of help other guys. And so I finished the degree last year, and then this year I had the opportunity to step away and start Mindful Men, which is a dedicated mental health service here in Australia, but also works in the disability space as well, which I'm also passionate about. So yeah, that's been the journey in a very quick overview of the last 15 years of my life.
Wow, if only I could sum up 15 years of my life in those couple of minutes. Actually, yesterday, to talk about myself, I'm selfish. Yesterday, I had to talk for 1 minute. That was like
Mm.
my when we competed, it was like literally competing for speech, like the best speaker. And we had 1 minute, and I talk a lot. So that was challenging, but you did a great job. You should have flown over here and competed.
Well, maybe I can send this video backwards, back in time,
That's right.
and
We're in the
attend there. And
future.
I am in
There
the
is
future, yes.
Yeah. So, okay. So I love that you brought up a lot of amazing, important points. So it's so awesome that you're so strong and that you're like speaking for men, because men have this stigma of like, people of society give men the stigma of like, you have to be strong, you can't talk about feelings, nothing's wrong with you, just suck it up. And it's not fair and it's wrong. So you are amazing, and what you're doing is amazing, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail. But also that you brought up OCD. So I think it's so important that you speak about actual mental health diagnosis, and that the fact that you're taking care of yourself and you went and got help and got therapy, and you realize like, hey, something's going on, let me figure out what it is. So my brother, he had actually, that's what I talked about yesterday, sort of in a nutshell, not that, but my brother actually had OCD so bad that he took his own life at 26 years old. And it was really hard to watch him go through that. And so can you kind of talk about like the different types of OCD, or what you kind of what kind you have?
Yeah, sure. And I love to talk about this because OCD is often misunderstood, and it's often trivialized. Like whenever we talk about OCD in the general community, or even on social media or the TV or whatever, it's often joked as like someone who just likes things to be neat and orderly, or someone maybe who washes their hands a lot. And it's not any of those things really. I mean, yes, there is a version of OCD called contamination OCD where someone will wash their hands, but they would wash them not because they like clean hands necessarily, but because there's an overwhelming fear of contamination and germs and things like that. And they would wash their hands so much that it would be quite debilitating. They couldn't even use their hands in some cases. But for those who are new to OCD, let me just define it quickly, if that's okay. So
Yeah.
OCD stands for obsessive compulsive disorder, and it starts with an obsessive or intrusive thought that can be quite disturbing. And it creates a lot of anxiety and angst, and sometimes terror and fear as well. And so to alleviate that, you need to perform what's called a compulsion, which is the C in OCD, or a behavior. And so by doing the behavior and compulsion, it alleviates the anxiety that's caused by the obsessive thought. And then you kind of get stuck in this pattern of doing it over and over and over again. And to be classified as a disorder, you need to be doing this for over an hour a day. That's the criteria for how long of your day you're doing this. And it also needs to have, I guess, a substantial impact on your life as well. So, for example, someone who likes their desk neat and tidy, and then they say, "Oh, my OCD is killing me because my pens aren't in the pen holder." Not OCD. That's something that's just more around you like things to be neat and tidy, and that's fine as well. But it's when you think about someone who has OCD, someone like your brother or someone like me or something like that, we're having these thoughts, behaviors that taking a long time out of our day, and they can be quite debilitating. I've heard of stories of people locking themselves in a room for
Mm.
4 years
Oh.
because they couldn't face the world depending on whatever their obsessive thoughts were and compulsive acts were as well. So my entry started into this when I was about 8 years old as well, and I didn't know what OCD was at the time, and it wasn't until I was 28 that I got diagnosed. So I didn't know about OCD until 28 years old, and I'm 39 now. So it's only 10 years ago, roughly, that I have been on this recovery pathway. But when I was 8, I remember being in the schoolyard, and a student said to me, Simon, if you stop talking for more than a minute, you're going to lose your voice forever. And so for most people in the world, they would just disregard that and say, oh, that's silly. I'm not going to pay any attention to that kind of comment. It's just ridiculous. But for me, it implanted a seed of mental illness that I've lived with for 3 decades. And I really thought that would be true and that would come true. And so that became my obsessive thought. I had a lot of fear about losing my voice. And so to alleviate that distress and to check that my voice was still there, I would hum, which would be my behavior. I would hum to myself, very small, like type thing, over and over and over again, all day, every day, because I was just so fearful of losing my voice. And this lasted for about 2 years or so, but it developed into other checking behaviors and a whole bunch of different ranges of things. So, for example, when I was in my teenage years, mum and dad separated, and me and my youngest brother, so I'm one of 4 boys, me and my youngest brother went with mum. And I just had this overwhelming fear of safety and needing to be secure. And I felt like I needed to be that man of the house because dad wasn't there and my older brothers weren't there. And so my checking behavior, my obsessive thoughts became centered around safety and security. And I was really worried about people breaking into the house and stealing our stuff or hurting us when we were sleeping, or even like some of the appliances in the house, catching a light in the middle of the night and we'd burn down in our sleep. And so that would be the obsessive thoughts. And then I would do compulsive behaviors, which was systematically checking the house from front door to front windows, back doors, gates. The car was locked for whatever reason. The stove was off, the iron was off, all this type of stuff. There was nothing that was going to be around it to burn the house down. And I would need to check it in a certain order or touch things in certain ways. And this would take hours. I would, in my early teens, I'd be up for hours and hours, probably 2 to 3 hours each night doing this in some cases. And so that really ramped up then, and I had more obsessive stuff and compulsive stuff with my bag at school. So I'd be obsessing about, did I have my wallet and keys? Because if I lost those things, these mythical people that were inside my head would get my address and they'd get my keys, and then they'd have a way into the house, basically. And so I'd be checking my bag all day, every day. And I'd check it so much that then I'd need to check it again because I was worried that this stuff would fall out of my bag through the process of checking. And so that happened as well. And even when I got, my license, and it turned into the car as well, so making sure that the handbrake was on, because I had this obsessive thought that the car would roll down a hill and kill a whole bunch of people in its wake or whatever. And none of these things ever happen. But in an OCD mind and in a mental illness mind, we get lost in the thoughts. Mm-hmm. And we can't get out of the thoughts. It's really hard to get out of the thoughts and see and be rational. Like it's quite irrational. And when you talk about it out loud, like me saying that I hummed for almost 2 years because I feared losing my voice, it sounds ridiculous when you say it out loud. But in my mind at the time, as an 8-year-old, it was very real, very distressing and traumatizing, and so forth. And so this is my version of OCD, and I still live with it today at 39, but it's not as bad as it used to be. But certainly I've heard of a lot of other stories, and in talking to different therapists, like I've been introduced to other versions of OCD just as part of the education process. So there's things like harm OCD, where people, they might have a knife in their hand in the kitchen, cooking dinner, quite a normal thing to do. And then they'd get this obsessive thought about, what if I accidentally stab someone? Or now that I'm thinking about stabbing someone, does that mean I want to stab someone? And like, if you've got like kids and a wife or partner at home, and this becomes quite distressing because just because you're thinking about it doesn't mean you want to do it. It's just you can't get rid of the thought, so you start thinking about it more and more and more and more, and then so you developed behaviors. And it could be that if you have harm OCD with that knife situation, that you might start avoiding knives, for example, or you might throw all the knives out in the household because you just have this overwhelming fear of doing something like in a split moment of subconsciousness. And so, this is what OCD can be like to live with. And there's other people that have OCD around religion and spirituality. It could be there's one around pedophilia as well, and some really big topics and big stressful things. But the people that are experiencing them don't necessarily believe in any of this stuff. It's just they get lost, as I said before, they're lost in the thoughts. And so it's so distressing as well that OCD is what's called a silent condition or a silent disorder, is that from first symptom to first treatment, it takes someone on average about 15 years, roughly 13 to 15, 17 years to get help. And so they're living with this in silence or suffering in silence, often in silence, particularly men who traditionally haven't got an outlet to talk about this type of stuff. Because we were told when we were growing up, and I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I'm sure it's the same for a lot of guys who are maybe even older than me, that boys don't cry, boys don't show emotion, boys can't talk about this stuff because that means you're less than a man. And so we bottled it up. And if our dads didn't talk about this stuff and we didn't feel comfortable going to them, who else can we feel comfortable with? Maybe mum wasn't even aware of it. And so it begins this cycle of trying to figure it out on your own. And for me, it was 20 years of masking it. So putting a mask on, and on the outside, people would go, "Oh yeah, Simon's pretty easygoing. He's happy-go-lucky. He's a larrikin." On the inside, I was completely different. I was hurting really bad. I was depressed, anxious, didn't know what mental illness was because we didn't talk about it. So I was trying to figure it out. Like, am I weird? If I talk about this, am I going to get locked away? Or like trying to navigate all those feelings. And then it didn't get until when I was 28 when my now wife said, "Simon, you've really got to go get some help because you're drinking too much." And I was using alcohol to numb everything and slow things down. And you're not showing up the way that I know you can show up in life. And so it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, is go into that GP's office and say, "Look, I think I've got mental health issues." And I nearly choked on the words as they came out. But it was also one of the most amazing things as well, because I was able to get diagnosed, start learning about what OCD is particularly, and then ways to kind of, I guess, navigate living with OCD through different therapy processes as well. So it's quite a liberating process to get the diagnosis eventually.
Well, I'm proud of you. It takes a lot to, like I said, to do that. Um, Really quick, my brother, ironically, would be, you said you're 39. He would be 39 in 2 days if he was alive. So his birthday, after, when this airs, his birthday would have passed, but November 8th was his birthday. And he was 1 year younger than me. I just turned 40 and he would have been 39. So that's really awesome that you said that. I believe in like energy and numbers and different things and stuff. And not that I don't believe in God, but I believe in a lot of stuff. And I think that's really cool. And we're all connected, and we all say stuff for a reason. So thank you for saying that. And also really quick, his was like rituals really bad. When you talk about hands, his hands were purple because he washed them so much. And in the winter in Maryland, it was dangerous because his skin was so thin that he could get what's it called? Freeze bite? Not freeze bite. What's it called? Frostbite. Thank you. I don't know. I'm talking about a freezer. Frostbite really easily because his hands were so worn out. So yeah, it's very sad, and thank goodness for your now wife, because an outside person making you aware of what's going on can be the biggest blessing ever. And it helps you change your mindset. It helps you see that there's something going on. So thank goodness for her that she loves you enough and could be honest with you. And thank you for you that you were big enough a person to also not be defensive and be like, yeah, I see it, let's check it out. So, and thankful also that you're helping so many men now, because you actually stepped up and said, yes, I think there is a problem. Not that mental illness, I'm saying, is a big problem, but what I'm saying is the obsessiveness that was holding you back maybe from things. And and the fear, like we have so much fear. And I faced one of my fears yesterday. Public speaking is disgusting. I Sorry, show. It's gonna be a show, so I'm excited. And but that's the best thing we can do sometimes is face our fears. And then we look back and we're like, oh, that wasn't that bad, right? So
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, I'm so proud of you. And so your business is called Mindful Men, and which is very clever, and I love it. So what is your favorite thing about your business so far?
I think being in business, for one, like stepping away from that old career that didn't light me up, and I've found I'm glad you brought up the mindful in Mindful Men because it came from my burnout story. So, like, since COVID came along, there's a lot of people experiencing things like burnout, and that again for me was one of those things that I thought, oh, that's just a bit of a cop out thing. That if you don't, it's a workplace stress and you don't want to do your work, but when I experienced it, I had to spend 4 months off of work. I was just spent
Wow.
physically, mentally, emotionally. And I remember because like my OCD, it fuels perfectionism and I could no longer hit that perfectionist bar that I set for myself in terms of standards. And so I found mindfulness through my therapy approach to burnout and ways of grounding myself and rediscovering joy and things like that. And then from there, I was able to draw some of the cool things like using your five senses to ground yourself and be present in the moment, which is helpful for my kids because I've got two little kids and I'm often on a different planet. And
Aw.
but also like, working with the guys that I work with is being mindful of who we are and how we're showing up in the world. So it's challenging those social constructs of masculinity. It's looking about the relationships at work and at home and with our kids as well, but also tuning into our values and our identity as well. These are all things that are mindfulness-based practices that we can put together and then kind of get guys to come out of autopilot mode and live the life that they've always dreamed of, but they kind of let go of and just turned into a bit of a groundhog day, go to work, come home, go to work, come home, and all that type of stuff. So it's about shaking out that inner child from guys and going from there. It's a great thing, and that's what I love about being in business is being able to shape future directions for guys and help them to break out of their own boxes and live the life that they want to live.
So amazing. We cannot like succeed, I think, if we don't have the right mindset. And if we're not mindful, like you said, right? So if we're not mindful of things that are holding us back, we're not going to get to our potential. We're going to let the fear stop us in our tracks.
Mm.
And like you said, Groundhog Day, uh, not fun. And that's what it is. And no offense, I love being a nurse, but that's how it is for me right now. It's like the joy is like sucked out because of money issues with the hospital. Everything's money driven now and all this
Mm.
stuff. And it's gotten to the point where it's like, oh, wow, I have to go there again. And I don't like that because I love helping people. But it's just the fact of like, there's so many things overwhelming it now. It's not just about helping people like it used to be. It's all these other factors. And so it's like that. And that's sad. And so that's so awesome that you're really like making a difference in men's lives. And I know your business is pretty new. And so your podcast is also called Mindful Men, which is amazing. So I know you help like, and you're a father. You talked about your two little ones.
Mm.
How did becoming a father change your mindset?
Yeah, it's certainly, I guess you go from that everything's about me to everything's not about me, kind of
Right.
essentially,
Nothing's about me
so
anymore.
nothing's about me anymore. And so, like, I remember like when Gus, my son Gus, he's 5.5 now, but when he was
Oh,
first brand new born, my wife had an emergency C-section, and so she couldn't get out of bed for 4 or 5 days
wow.
after. And on the first night, and I've never been around kids before, and
Wow.
she has, like, she's had a big family with lots of kids, and so she's been around babies. I remember standing there above Gus and trying to change his nappy for the first time, and I've never changed a nappy in my life, and I didn't know what I was doing. And the nurse came in and showed me what to do. And Rachel was in the background on the bed. And as soon as the nurse left, I forgot. I completely forgot, and I started crying. The emotion overwhelmed me. I'm like,
Oh,
I should know this. I'm this little boy's dad. I've just been shown how to change a nappy, but now I can't get it right. And now I'm embarrassed because I'm going to have to call the nurse back in because Rachel can't get out of bed and show me how to do it because she knows how to do it. And so it was one of those moments where I'm like, okay, I've just got to not suck it up to be a man, but suck it up because I need to get Gus some help because he needs this nappy change and I need to learn as well. So I essentially became mindful in that moment that to be a dad is to say, "Oh yeah, I need some help. It's okay. I don't know everything in the world." And so we got the nurse back in. The nurse was perfectly happy to show me again and show me again and show me again as many times as I needed it.
Yeah.
And and so and then when the second one came along, Pippa, I was doing that with my eyes closed. And so you learn so much as when the first one comes in, like and about who you are. And for a lot for me is around mental illness as well. So navigating mental illness as a dad as well, and trying not to project that on our kids, and
Yeah.
trying to sit with that. And that's a process that I'm continually working on. Like even this morning, I was having an argument with Gus about a fruit roll up in the cupboard. And like, yeah, and I wanted to do things certain ways because that's the OCD in my brain is I have to do things in certain ways. And
Yeah.
he likes to do things in his ways as well. So we were butting heads in the
Yeah.
kitchen at 6 o'clock in the morning. But I think I was at the same, and afterwards we both felt terrible because he was upset, I was upset,
Oh.
but then we kind of came back to it and said, okay. I said, Gus, I'm so sorry about that. Like, yeah, I overstepped the mark. And he said, yeah, Dad, I carried on a bit too much as well. And we kind of made up. And I think it's those moments as well is like that really make you reflect that go, we don't need to be perfect. We don't need to have all the answers and get it right all the time. But as long as we can be compassionate towards each other and open those communication lines, whether or not it's the communication line of a baby crying at me for the first day because I don't know how to change his nappy, or when he's 5 and he's not getting the treat at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
There's ways to navigate everything and just not beat ourselves up so much. We try to be this perfect parent, but it's just not necessary to be a good parent. You just need to be a present parent, in my view. So it's certainly changed me, I think, for the better. And it's challenges the ways I think and interact with the world as well through my own mental illness. It forces me to go, Simon, this is not important in the way that your mind thinks it's important. And then really trying to sit in that middle ground and find that middle ground a bit more frequently, which is really good for my mental health because it teaches me new tricks to manage the overwhelm and the insecurities that I have within myself.
So you are so strong. So you're using your skills that you learn at social working skills and coaching, like you're coaching yourself. That
Mm.
is takes such strength. I want you to know that. That I'm so proud that you can do that because that takes a lot. Like that's hard to like step out of your own body kind of and be like, "Oh wait, no. This is not being a good example, or this is not going to solve anything. I need to like kind of tone it back." That's really awesome that you can do that. And just you saying that is going to help so many people because it's like, that's something we need to do, but that doesn't mean that we can do it. We can say 200 things we need to do. But yeah, for our kids, it's like that's the best thing about having kids is that it does teach us uh to kind of check ourselves, right? Because we're like, wait, I wouldn't want my kid to do that, or I don't want them to see, and I'm guilty of that. And I had kids at 18 and 20 and then 30. So it's a big difference. But yeah, so when I look back, I'm like, ooh, maybe I didn't respond correctly. Whoopsie. But I just want to say this, and I know this is like TMI because you focus around men stuff, but same thing with mothers. So I want you to know that I already had 2 kids. And again, I had the other ones young. I had my third child. It was a girl. She is a girl. She's still a girl. So um, I could not, I know this is TMI. I could not breastfeed my other ones because it didn't come in and I didn't know anything about it. My son lost 2.5 pounds because I thought I was feeding him the correct way and I wasn't. And then I would go to the doctor and they sometimes would take me serious, but sometimes not because I was 18. And then with her, I did everything right and thought I was going to be able to do it. And I didn't know how to do it. And I had to keep getting help and getting help. And I was embarrassed because they're like, you already have kids. Why don't you know
Mm.
this? Why isn't it working? Why don't you know what you're doing? And guess what? I cared about my baby so much that I didn't care after like asking a couple times, even if they got snappy. I'm like, I want to feed my baby. So I don't care what you think. And it's good that the nurse was very like helpful and nice, but some of them cannot, they can be rude or snippy. And so like with me, it's like they had this like thing like, you should know, but oh wow, listen, it's not working out. I want to feed my baby. Come help me, please. And I was nice about it. And then they started seeing how much I cared, and then everything was fine. But I want you to know it's the same thing for mothers. Like, and I already had kids, so don't
Hmm.
feel bad about that. There's no manual for kids. There's no like,
No.
this is what you do, step one, step two, step three, right? So I think that you are an amazing father, and I think that's so awesome. And sorry, you're going to have a lot of those snack arguments because my
Yeah.
oldest one
Oh
is
yes.
21. So, yeah, been there, done that. You can't eat ice cream. Okay, it's 6 a.m. No ice cream for
Yeah.
you. I want ice cream. No, it's not time. Maybe after like 4 p.m. when you come home, get some ice cream. So yeah, that happens. It's so funny because it's like both sexes go through the same thing, kinda, not the same way. We react to things different, but yeah, mom and dad, sometimes, we're both going through the same thing. So I think again, it's amazing how much you're doing for men and how much you're doing for yourself, how much you've grown over the last 10 years of knowing
Mm.
that you have OCD. Be proud of yourself, Simon, because you're doing amazing. Really. I just wanted to tell you that. Um,
Thank you.
you are so welcome. I know sometimes like we think like, oh, was this the right decision? Or, is it gonna work out or whatever? But you're gonna be doing so swell. So let me ask you this. How is your business going so far? I know it's new. So how's it going? You're getting a lot of clients and all that stuff, or
Yeah, it's going really well. So starting to
yay.
get clients, and both from a private perspective, but also through the disability avenues that I've got as well, which is
Wonderful.
fantastic. And just yeah, just getting at least one client is a good thing, to get them
Yes.
mindful of their own journey. But now, yeah, we're starting to book up, and I think that just goes to show that there's a lot of guys out there that are looking for this kind of support and are ready for this kind of support. And it's just about having a service that's available, because like when I was doing research for setting up the business, there's women specific ones, there's mum specific therapy services, there's children as well, but not so much just for guys as well. And I've often
Right.
had the question like, why just guys? Why is this just another show of patriarchy or masculinity in the world? I'm like, no, it's just because guys need sometimes a guy to talk to about stuff,
Yeah.
just like the mums do, and just like the kids do. Like, just because we're guys, and there's this whole toxic masculinity stuff going around the last couple of years in the social media space, and it's not an extension of that. It's if a woman wants to come and work with me, I'm happy to work with them as well. Like, it's fine. It's more around having the right fit for the support that you need as well.
Right.
Because I mean, connection's really important. I mean, for years I would only see female therapists. I really I felt it easier to talk to females, but over the last few years I found two really cool guys to talk to as well. So I like to mix it up and see different perspectives, and I think that adds to the mindfulness approach. Not men don't know all the answers for men's culture. Sometimes we need to look at a female perspective, or
Yeah.
sometimes we need to look at maybe an Eastern perspective compared to a Western perspective as well, or look at things more spiritually. Or mindfulness is often falls into that thing where people think it's a hippie thing, but it's actually, there is some evidence that it does work for guys and girls, and it's not hippie. It's just some simple tips that you can use to feel better about yourself and be mindful and stuff like that. So there's horses for courses, different approaches that are going to suit you and so forth. But yeah, it's so to answer your question, it's going really well, and I'm really excited for it, and I'm excited to see where it goes in the future, because it's a space that's underserved, and it's a space that I'm really passionate about given my own journey. So
Yes. I'm so excited and I'm so happy for you. And I feel like people are goofballs that say those kind of things because I think that's ridiculous. Men should have the same opportunities and the same, things that women have. So if there's women groups, why wouldn't there be men groups?
Mm,
That doesn't mean you don't like women or you're saying forget about all the women. It's that you guys deserve it as well. So I'm happy. I think that's amazing. I'm glad that you give that opportunity for men to open up and talk about real issues that you guys go through that you understand as a man that's going through it. So I think that's
mm.
beautiful. Now, really quick, so what advice would you give anyone that wants to quit their job and start a business or just follow their dreams?
Yeah, I think there's two elements to this thing because I've come from two different pathways, but I like to come back to the following the dreams, and it's something that I'm going to be teaching my kids as they go up in their schooling and so forth. Is like I always wanted to work in mental health. I just didn't know what it was at the time, and I settled for a career that was safe. It got me a good job with good money and all that, but didn't light me up. So I think for my kids in particular, and this is the same advice I'd give to anyone, it's just like if you want to go and study more, like to be a doctor, as long as it lights you up, as long as that gets you out of bed, I don't care if you do that, or I don't care if you become a visual artist, or I don't care if or I actually do care if you go join the armed forces because I don't really want my kids to be in danger. But
Yeah,
you know, you just do what lights you up, and as long as you're happy, I'll be happy. And it's the same not just with careers, but relationships.
right.
If they're in good relationships that are healthy and happy, then I'd be happy with that as well. Anything in their lives, and it's just the same goes for adults. You can get to a point like me where you're in a career that you just don't vibe with anymore. You might have vibed with it when you first started, but not anymore. And I always say it's okay to change, like I did it. As a mature age student. In fact, mature age study is really good because you actually know what you want in life when you're a bit older, and you're there for a reason. Whereas a lot of us, and myself included, when we go from high school to university or vocational care training or whatever, we might not know what we want, so we kind of just breeze through it
Right.
without giving the effort. So yeah, go try mature age study. It can do wonders, and you'll get some good results from it too.
Wow. Okay, let me just put myself in there because that's what I happen to do all the time. Really quick. So yeah, I didn't go to nursing school until well, I didn't start the program until I was like 27 or 28. I graduated when like 2 weeks or 10 days before 11 days before my 30th birthday. And so there was people in class acting like idiots, throwing stuff. I'm like, is this high school? Like, what are you doing? Not taking it serious. There was people in my nursing program that failed because they were partying till 3 in the morning before clinicals. So you're right. I was passionate and I had to pass. I had no choice, right? So, and I talked about that in my 1 minute thing was that at 27 years old, I was a single mom working two jobs and going to college. So, and then unfortunately, that's when I witnessed my brother commit suicide on the telephone. So yeah. So I almost quit college, but I'm glad that I didn't because I had that drive. Like I had to do it for my boys. So it's like, if I was younger when that happened, I would have quit school 100% because I was sad. It was very traumatic, but I had to keep pushing for them. And so mature age schooling, that's absolutely, I know people that went to school at 50, 60 years old and they're doing amazing. So you can do it. Don't ever give up, which is my thing. I always say, don't ever give up because you got this. If you quit, think of all the opportunities that you could miss. 100% true. Just don't. I don't
Yeah.
care how old you are. You could start anything new at whatever age, whatever you're passionate about, whatever your dream is, try it, do it. You can do it. Really quick, where can we find you? Because that's important.
Yeah, so the easiest place to find me is on my website. So it's
Okay.
www.mindful-men.com.au. And that's got links to my services. So if you're after therapy in Australia, I can support you there. But it also links to the podcast, the Mindful Men podcast, on my social media. I've just signed up to TikTok, so I'm going to see how that
Ooh.
goes. Hopefully it goes viral for the right reasons. And yeah, so I do a lot of I do a lot of social media stuff around just talking about men's mental health stuff and
Awesome.
men's culture, and also a lot of the snips from the guests that I have on as well. Because, and as I like to highlight that it's not just guys talking on this thing; it's women as too. It's my son was on it. I
Oh,
like to get various perspectives because it certainly does help us become mindful of who we are when we tune into different worldviews about the similar issues as well. So, yeah, the website's the best place to find me.
well, that's amazing. Thank you so much for your message and for being mindful of your own OCD and mental health and helping other men and mindful men your business. And I can't wait to see how far it goes. Thank you so much for talking to me, Simon. You're amazing. And you have a wonderful day in the future.
Thanks, Danielle. I really enjoyed coming on and having a chat with you. And thanks so much for holding space for me to talk about men's mental health.
Of course. Thank you for sharing. Talk to you again soon.
Bye.
Bye bye. Wow. Okay. So, how amazing is Simon? He's so awesome. Please follow him at Mindful Men. Um, I went on his website. It's great. The fact that he's trying to help people, other men get through this and be a support system to them, and the fact that he's gone through mental health issues and everything himself is really great because that's what we do. We have some things that we go through, some you know, trials and tribulations, different things, and then you learn from them, you help other people. I think that's amazing. Um so I I'm so surprised I didn't cry. I think I cried so much yesterday that that I got it out. Um I am just gonna do my 1 minute just because I talked about it. So, here we go. I actually said lots of it, but I'm gonna say it. So, I was 27 years old. I was a single mom of 2 boys, working 2 jobs and going to college. One morning, I witnessed my brother commit suicide via telephone. I was heartbroken, devastated, and scared. I almost dropped out of college, but thankfully I didn't. And now I'm a nurse, still a mom, podcast host, speaker, and much more. And I'm passionate about helping others speak about their authentic points of view and focus on the things that they can control, their reaction to things, the energy that they allow in and give out, and forgiving others and themselves. My message is don't ever give up because you got this. If you quit, think of all the opportunities that you could miss. All right. I'm Danielle Boer. That's how I ended it. So, all right. There's my 1 minute. I've got a lot of minutes. Apparently, I talk a lot. But I'm surprised I didn't cry then. See? I cried so much yesterday. I didn't make it all the way to the semifinals, but I learned so much. So in life, it's such a bonus to just learn and grow, right? And that's why we do things. I got very emotional and I was scared. So scared. It's so easy for me to talk to you right now because I can't see you looking at me. Makes a difference. There goes my voice again. Makes a difference, right? It's different when somebody's staring at you, just like on stage with comedy. People are looking at you and you're like, okay. So, these people were judging me, but I'm so proud of myself. That's why I say don't ever give up, right? I'm actually writing I told you I'm becoming a co-author of this book. And so I'm just literally also writing the pages for the book. And I just finished one of the pages and one of them I talked about the thing that where I say don't ever give up. You got this, right? But um you know it's really like you learn and you grow. And they asked, one of the questions is, what is the most courageous thing you've ever done? And I think what I did yesterday, auditioning for that, was one of the most courageous things I've ever done. I've done a lot of things lately this year and the last couple years that's very courageous to me. That, if I would let fear stop me, I would not know how far I could go. That's why I said don't ever give up, right? You got this. Don't quit. And unless it's something that's holding you back or you're not passionate about, like he said, there wasn't any light in it, he didn't enjoy it, well, quit, but follow your dreams. Don't quit your dreams. You got this, okay? I don't care if you're 60, 70, 80, 90. There's like a 90-year-old that does gymnastics. Have you seen her? She's amazing. Uh, don't quit. You got it. Keep fighting. I heard the most amazing stories yesterday. I met the most amazing people yesterday. I saw Grant Cardone talk to us. What in the Hoot Nanny live, like talking to us. What? Crazy. Crazy. Pete Vargas, Pat Quinn, all these amazing speakers, all these amazing people, all these people making differences, making millions of dollars, sometimes billions of dollars. But like talking to us, like it's so amazing. It was one of the best experiences ever. I'm so grateful for the experience, even though I didn't make it all the way. Oh, well, I learned and grew. I grew. They taught us so much. They taught us so much. I'm telling you, so, so, so much. And so that was an amazing experience. I am not bitter. I'm not sad. I cried. It sounds like I was because I said I cried. I cried because when I was telling my 1 minute in my life story talking about my brother, when I saw the coach, because they have coaches there for free, just like helping you before you go up and talk. And she reacted to my brother when I said my brother committed suicide. And I witnessed it over, via telephone. She reacted and then I reacted and I cried hysterically, like, "Woo," like that. That sounded like a ghost, but so I cried. And then I did it again and I didn't cry, just like kind of what I did with you guys. And they were like, no, you have to let your emotions go. And I'm like, I don't know, a happy medium. So when I did it, my 1 minute, for the judge, I really like got emotional. I could feel it and other people could feel it. And they came up to me afterwards and was like, I'm so proud of you. Thank you for sharing that. Wow, da da da, whatever. And when I told everyone, sometimes individually practicing and all this stuff, it meant a lot that they were just encouraging. Everybody was so encouraging. We all encouraged each other. Like it was like a contest, but not a contest because when the people got announced, that all of us that stayed were so happy for them. So, so happy because every one of us can change lives, right? That's what it's about. Who cares who wins or loses or whatever? It's about what you're going to do with it, right? What are you going to do? Are you going to make an impact on the world? Do that, right? Change lives, help people. That's what we can do. Okay? So, I say this. If you are in Australia and you need someone to talk to and you have mental health issues or you just want to talk to a man, hit Simon up. He is great. Okay. Mindful Men. Watch his podcast. Maybe be a guest on his podcast. I don't know. Um, hit me up if you want to talk to me. If you want to be on this show. Almost over. Season 1's almost over, guys. Oh my gosh. We did it. I'm so excited. You don't understand how excited I am. I'm so excited. So season 1 is almost done. That rhymes. I like to rhyme. Um, so yeah, I mean, look how far that we've come. I used to say every 5 seconds. If you are a listener that started listening from episode 1 in June, you rock. I thank you so much. You mean so much to me. You are amazing. So thank you so much. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the love. I couldn't do this without you guys. Okay. So, Alrighty. Email me at authenticpointsofview@gmail.com and on Facebook and Instagram, Authentic Points of View Podcast. Okay. I have a YouTube and it's Authentic Points of View. TikTok is like Authentic Points 2 or something like that. Just find me, okay? Danielle Boer. You can just look me up. There's probably not too many of us around. I don't know. I thank you so much for being loyal. If you're a new listener, thank you so much. You rock also. You guys are amazing. I couldn't do this without you. I love you so much. I am so thankful for you and thankful for your authentic points of view. I hope that something you hear, too many hears, here and here, that you hear with your ears here, helps you and either helps you see that you're not alone or helps you change your point of view. So, keep up the good work, whatever you're doing, be kind, and know that you are loved and you are important. Thank you all. You are amazing. I will talk to you next Wednesday. Bye. Thanks for listening to Authentic Points of View podcast. I hope that something you heard today changes your point of view. If you would like to share your views, please email me at authenticpointsofview@gmail.com or leave a comment on Facebook at Authentic Points of View podcast. Remember, always be mindful of other people's journeys and have open ears and an open heart.